guys, it's Emily here. Today I'm making a vlog about my Monsta X fan sign experience. Just kind of the process of what it's like to get into a fan sign, my suggestions and tips, and what the fan sign itself was like. So let's get started. First and foremost, usually in the Monsta X fan cafe or a particular site's website or fan cafe, they will announce that they're having a fan sign. So for me, I heard about from a friend that Monsta X is going to do a fan sign in Gwangju. I live in Mokpo, which is about an hour away from Gwangju, so I decided that I wanted to enter. There are not often a lot of fan signs outside of Seoul. Sometimes you will see fan signs maybe in Daegu or Busan or like Daejeon, but a lot of the times they're really only held in and around Seoul. That being said, fan signs in Seoul are very difficult to get into, as I'm sure you've heard. In some ways, fan signs outside of Seoul are easier to get into, but other ways they are not so easy. Fan site NIMs will still try to get into fan signs that are outside of Seoul because they know they're easier to get into. They may buy more albums than they would for a fan sign in Seoul, but they're still going to buy a lot of albums. So you do have that competition to get in as well. So basically the way it went is they announced the fan sign on a Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the buying period started, and then it ended on Friday at 8 p.m. And then they posted the winners on their fan cafe on Friday at 10 p.m. And then the fan sign was held that Saturday at 11:30. So on Wednesday, I went to Gwangju, picked up my albums. The music store that was holding the fan sign was called Ishiboshi Umaksa. I bought 16 albums, which came out to be 304,000 Korean won, or about 285 American dollars. I'm not exactly sure. I paid a pretty penny for what I got. My recommendation for going to pick up albums are 3 things. Make sure you bring something with you to the music store to pick up your albums in. Nothing will be harder than you showing up, with no help to pick up 20 plus albums, and they don't have bags for you, they don't have a box for you. Like, there's not a lot you can really do in that situation, so make sure you bring something with you. In my case, I ended up going to Daiso and buying a reusable shopping bag like this to carry my albums in, and it worked perfectly. But again, I wish that I would have known that beforehand because I have tons of shopper bags at home that I could have brought. The other thing I will recommend, especially if you're a foreigner, figure out what your name is in Hangul and enter that on your application sheet. When you purchase your albums, they'll ask you for your name, your phone number, and your birthday. So when they ask you for your name, write your name down in Hangul because there's a higher chance they'll let you in. They tend to put a cap on how many foreigners they allow into fan signs. For what reason, I'm not exactly sure. But not only are you competing with maybe other foreigners that want to go, but you're also competing with Chinese fans and Japanese fans. So it's just something to consider. I'm not saying it's necessary, but it might help your chances of getting in. Or make sure you have the financial stability to try and get into a fan sign. I bought 16 albums, but that is on the low end of recommended albums to buy. And if you want to go to a fan sign that's in Seoul, you're going to have to buy even more albums. I've heard at least 30 or 40 is a good number of albums to buy for Monsta X. If you want to go to a fan sign for a group like BTS or EXO, you are going to have to buy hundreds of albums. So make sure this is a financially conscious decision for you. You don't want to be eating nothing but ramen for the next month just because you wanted to meet your favorite group. It's not worth it. So the next thing I want to touch on is how to prepare beforehand. First of all, I think it's important that you prepare your heart and your emotions that you might not get in. Even though you may buy a lot of albums, you still are competing with a lot of other people who are trying to get in. So it's really important to know that, oh, I might not get in. It's something that is a huge bummer and a huge letdown, but you need to acknowledge that it is a possibility straight from the get-go. And if you think going in it's not something that you can handle, then this might not be something that you should try. Then if you are lucky enough to get in, again, also continue preparing your emotions, because once you get to the fan sign, you are going to be so nervous and there are so many things you might forget or you might mess up on. You never know. So just always be in the mental state of readiness for a fan sign. Also, I recommend, highly recommend beforehand figuring out which album pages you want each member to sign and bookmarking them each specifically. Luckily for these round of Monsta X promotions, the beautiful albums all have loose leaf album pages, so they were very easy to pick out and organize exactly which ones I wanted. I picked out each of them and I just put them in order. When I got to the fan sign, I put them in order of who was sitting at the table, but beforehand I marked them all with these little page tabs so the members could see which page was theirs without having to dig too hard. If you want to prepare sticky note questions, that is something I definitely recommend you do way before the fan sign. I'm talking a couple days in advance, especially if you will need to translate questions from English to Korean like I did. Luckily, I had a friend help me out with that, but if I had waited until the last minute to do it, I don't think I could have gotten it done in time. I'll show you this one for example. You can just pick any little cute post-it you want or a normal one, it doesn't really matter, and you can write your question, usually I would recommend writing the member's name on the top of it, just so maybe for your own benefit so you don't get confused. And then make sure your handwriting is legible because they're kind of in a rush to sign your things. You know, you don't want them like squinting trying to read your terrible handwriting. Another thing I would recommend is if Monsta X staff is really strict about the kind of questions you ask the boys, you can't use any language referring to yourself personally. You have to refer to Monbebe. No one specifically, no names or anything like that. So for instance, the question that I asked Hyungwon originally was, can you write something sweet for me, a compliment, etc, 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 and they crossed it out and said, can you write something sweet, a compliment for Monbebe? It sucks. It sucks that they won't let us ask questions like this, and the reason I think that they do it is because they don't want people to have the impression that Monsta X has particular favorite fans. While we all know like that's not necessarily true, sometimes you just have to play by the rules, and in the end you don't want the members to sit there squinting trying to figure out what your post-it says under being scribbled out. You want to spend the most time talking to them and interacting with them. So in retrospect, I wish that I would have known that, and I would have made my questions fit the rules better beforehand. Another thing you might want to prepare beforehand are gifts. An excellent gift for the members that you can get them is snacks, because they can sit and eat the snacks during the fan sign. If you want to get them something that they can wear, then that means whenever you see fan site photos of the particular fan sign that you went to, you're like, that was that thing that I got for them. That was me. So that was kind of the mindset that I went in when buying my gifts. I got everybody snap bracelets with different Pokemon characters on them. So I got Sonu and Owlette. I got Juhan Pikachu, Kihan Poplio, I Am Charmander, Minhyuk Litten, Hyungwon Bulbasaur, and Wano Eevee. So it was really exciting to see previews and HQs of fan site photos and see my gifts. Or you can get them something that's more meaningful and expensive. I mean, honestly, the truth is it's really up to you. Personally, for me, I just wanted to get them some kind of fun little cute gift that I could see later on in different pictures and like keep that memory. My friend Sing, for instance, bought them all a box of Pocky, and she bought her favorite members flower crowns that matched with flower crowns that she bought for herself, which I thought was a really cute idea. I also wrote letters for Juhan and Hyungwon, and I wrote my letter to Juhan in English, and my friend helped me translate my letter for Hyungwon into Korean. That's another thing to keep in mind. If you want to write a letter to your bias and you know they don't speak English very well, even if they speak English alright, it's still a really good idea to write it in Korean so they can really grasp exactly what you're trying to say. Well, those are all things that I prepared the morning of the fan meet, and in retrospect now I wish that I had done it maybe the day before. Even though I didn't know I was going to get in at that point, it definitely made my life a little more hectic in the morning before getting on the bus to Gwangju. Another thing that I would recommend getting, I would make plenty of time to commute, especially if you know you have to take public transportation of any kind, because the fan site may start at 11:30, but check-in time is from 11 o'clock to 11:20. So you want to make sure you get there with plenty of time to check in. You also want to make sure that you have your photo ID with you, because that is how they will verify your identity to enter the fan sign. In general, I just think it's a really good idea to be on top of your timing when it comes to fan signs. and to make sure you're as prepared as possible going in. Because the truth is when you get there, you just want to enjoy interacting with the group and spending time with your oppas, right? And now we're gonna get to the good stuff. I'm gonna talk about the actual fan sign itself and talking with all of the guys. And I'll also show you my pages that they signed and kind of talk about my impression of them. So going into the fan sign, I was very nervous. Like, whoo-hoo, like my heart was racing, my palms were sweaty, I had butterflies in my tummy, I was shaking, it was so nerve-wracking. I kept thinking to myself, like, I only have this one chance to make an impression on them. When I sat down, Shonu was first, and he signed my page like this. So you can see he signed my name at the top and then signed below. And as you can see, I wrote his name on a tab there so he knew which one was his. All of the members will probably ask you your name and where you're from. They'll especially ask you where you're from if you're foreign looking like me. So he asked me where I was from, and I told him I'm from America, and now I live in Mokpo. And then we started talking about my friend. That I told him that she really loves him a lot, and he signed my page and everything. And it was like, before I even knew it, I had to go. Time was up with him. I think we talked about how impressed I was with his English and my friend, and I was just kind of like, I think you're really great, and you know, and I love you. And then it was over. He did spend a lot of time filling out my post-it note question. But in reality, it really does go as fast as everybody says it does. So next was Juhan, and I was really nervous to talk to him because, as I said, he's one of my biases. So I just started freaking out, like as soon as I realized I was next. So I sat down in front of him, I said hi. The question I asked him was, what is the most important quality for your girlfriend to have? And as you can see, he wrote a pretty smile. It was really cute. He actually spent a couple of minutes really thinking about how to answer it, and I think it was more so just because he was thinking about what to answer in English. So he kind of looked up at me and like chuckled because he was like, oh, I don't know what to write. And he kind of like, I smiled back at him and he's like, ah, okay, that, pretty smile. And I was like, oh, shut up, you're so cute. And so he asked me where I was from, like everybody did, and I was like, I'm really nervous to meet you because you are my favorite in the group. And he was like, really? Like his face just like lit up, and I was like, oh, I love you so much, oh my god. So he like grabbed both of my hands and he was like, thank you so much. And I was like, oh no, like, oh, you're welcome, like I just think you're really great. And it was over. I had to move on, and I was so sad. Like I just was like, I just want to sit and talk to you for like 10 years. Next was Kihyun. The question that I asked Kihyun is, what kind of pet name would you like your significant other to call you? And he wrote Honey. And when he wrote it, I read it aloud, and he smiled really big. It was really cute. And I kind of like heaved a really big sigh and was like, oh, I'm so nervous. And he like totally made fun of me. He totally like copied me, and it kind of made me feel a little looser. Like it loosened me up a little bit. At that point in time, the pressure about speaking Korean had like worn off. So I was feeling a little better, but I was still really nervous. A lot of them asked me if I had come to Korea just for the fan sign, and I said, oh, heavens no. And I gave him his Pokemon bracelet. Oh, he was like, oh, what Pokemon is this? And I told him it's Poplio. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. And he was like, oh, it's really cute. And I was like, I know. Like for the life of me, I can't tell you what else we talked about. I was just like so taken aback by how like stupid handsome he is in person. But he was really sweet. He told me I was pretty, and he like grabbed both of my hands and he held them for a really long time. And so when I moved on, next it was I am. And so I had gifts for him from my friend, as well as just all of my gifts. And he signed my page, and I asked him what his favorite hip-hop artist was, and if he could recommend it. And he said, oh, he has too many, which I was kind of sad about, but I also think that he was really rushed to sign it because I had given him so many things that he was pressed for time, just like everybody else was. So he asked me where I was from. I told him, you know, I really enjoy your rapping. I think you're really great. And it was my first fan sign and everything. And he was super nice. He could tell I was kind of nervous when I sat down, and the flower crowns had gotten tangled up in each other. So he was like, it's okay, like take a breath. Everything's all right. Take your time. So that made me feel a lot better too. Next was Minhyuk, and when I sat down in front of Minhyuk, he was like, have we met before? And I was like, no, we haven't. And he was like, are you sure? I feel like I met you at some kind of like Simply K-pop thing or something. And I was like, no, we've never met before. And he was like, well, I think you are very friendly and very pretty. And I was like, oh, why would you do this to me? Like, I wanted to like fall over right there. I asked him which of the members does he think he could fight? And he said all of them, and he said all of them are babies. So it like cracked me up. And so we laughed about that for a minute. We like held hands for a brief second. He asked me if I had come from a fan sign today, and I was like, well, yeah, I live in Mokpo. Then I really started to panic because I realized Hyungwon was next, and Hyungwon is like my top 3 bias, like of all my biases. He was one of my first like guy K-pop biases. I was internally like pooping my pants. I also remembered that my friend who goes to fansigns was like, yeah, Hyungwon speaks like the least amount of English out of all of them. And I was like, oh, what a convenient time for me to have forgotten all of the Korean that I know. Signed his name, and then he asked me what my name was because my name tag had fallen off at that point. So I told him, and he was really cute. He wrote like a bunch of exclamation points, exclamation points after my name, and then he wrote like exclamation points after his name. And because they changed my question, he kind of took a minute figuring out how to answer it, and I think he was also trying to think of English too, so he wrote, good job! And then I snapped the Pokemon bracelet on his wrist and he wrote, wow! And then he wrote, amazing! It was like the cutest thing ever. I gave him a snack and he was like, oh, like he was really excited to get a snack. It was really cute. And yeah, so we like held hands, and I told him I was from Mokpo, and he was really excited because his hometown is Gwangju. So we talked about Satori for like a second. I was just like, oh, I love you a lot, and I think you're great and perfect and wonderful. And then the manager Nuna was like, all right, time to go. And I was like, and bye. That was really disappointing that I didn't get to spend more time talking to him. Even if I could have spent more time talking to him, I think I would have been too nervous about speaking Korean to really like get across what I wanted to say to him. But he was still really sweet to me, and he called me pretty, and I just was like, this is like literally all I ever have to live for anymore. Like, I can never achieve anything greater than this. Finally was Wano, and Wano like immediately went to like grab my hand, and I was like, this is great and everything, but there's a lot we have to accomplish in a very short amount of time, so hold on. I gave him my page, and I love the way he signed my name. Ugh. I asked him, what type of skinship is your favorite? And the options are holding hands, hugging, cuddling, a popo, which is like a peck, and then a kiss, which is like a kiss. And he circled all of them, and I was like, all? And he was like, all. And I gave him the presents that my friend had given me for him. I just felt bad. I just felt like I was shoving so many things at him because I had my 2 presents, my like snack and my Pokemon bracelet, and Sing's letter and flower crown and box of Pocky and this like pig massager thing. But it was really cute because when he got the flower crown, there were like vines hanging out the back, and he put it on backwards so the vines were going over his face, and it was the cutest thing ever. Like, it cracked me up so much. I snapped the Pokemon bracelet on his wrist, and he like, oh, like played like it hurt him, and it was really cute. And then he grabbed both of my hands and stared at me really deep in my eyes, and he was just like, which is like, you're really pretty in Korean. And I was just like, excuse me? What? So I was like, oh, 감사합니다, like, thank you. I was like, I think you're really handsome and great. And he was like, 너무 예뻐요. And I was like, why are you doing this to me? He told me at least like 5 or 6 times that I was pretty, and I was like, literally, like, I have nothing more to aspire to in my life. Like, this is it. Fortunately, manager Nuna came back to tell me that time was up and I had to go, and I was just like, can I just sit here and hold hands with Wano for like another 3 hours? Like, I will give you all of the money in my wallet, please. I don't know how to make this happen, but I need it. So I got to go up. Wano immediately started beating Hyungwon with the pig massager thing, which I was like so delighted by. I forgot my album pages behind, so he called after me, and I came back up and got them, and he just smiled really brightly at me, and it was really sweet. Then I sat down and I proceeded to turn into a puddle because I was so floored at the experience that I just had. All of them were so sweet and so nice and handsome. They were all so handsome. After that, Seongwon opened my snacks and kind of like gave me a really big smile and started eating them, and that made me really happy. And Jihan and I waved at him and he waved back at me at one point, and I don't know what it was about Wano that day. He's like number 3 on my Monsta X bias list. He just decided to come for me that day. I was sitting in my seat thinking about how I'd lost my phone in a taxi cab that morning because I didn't prepare enough time and I was late. So I'm sitting there having an existential crisis about my phone. Like, bitch, what am I gonna do to get my phone back? Holy cow. I think more dramatically than I meant to, I like leaned on my armrest like this. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Wano do the same thing, and I'm like, maybe it's a coincidence. But so then I decide to test it. So I move from my hand like this to my fist, and he copies me again. And I look at him and I'm like I shake my head at him and he copies me, and I go like this and he like laughs at me because he's like, haha. He just gets such an enjoyment out of me being so flustered over him. At the end, all the members said goodbye to us, but Hyungwon stayed behind and he came out and he gave us these cool little cards. On the back, and then the cards look like this, and then they have a message from whatever member is the one passing them out. So I haven't translated this yet, and it's actually really difficult to read because the font is so like bold, blacky kind of, but it was really great because I got to have another interaction with him. I was sitting on the end of the aisle I was seated in, so he came by and he shook my hand and said thank you and bye and gave me the card. And then he leaned over me to give everybody else in my aisle cards, which means I was like this far away from his chest. And I was just like, this is fine. This is like one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my entire life. The whole time I was just sitting there like, this is real. After that, we all kind of went down to the parking lot, and at that point in time, Shonu and IM and Hyun and Minhyuk had all left in the first van. So it was Emily's bias car, apparently, of Wano and Hyunwon and Juhan. We all said bye to them, and Wano made eye contact with me again and like waved at me, and it made me feel like I wanted to die again. And then they left and everything was over, and honestly, like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since it happened. It was so amazing, so worth it. So that begs the question, will I ever go to another fan sign again? Will I try to apply for another fan sign again? The answer is an unequivocal yes. It was so worth it. I am so glad I decided on a whim to do this. Granted, like, the timing worked out well. Like, I'd just gotten my paycheck and I had the day off to go buy albums, so those conditions worked out really nicely for me. But I think now in the future, knowing what I know now, like wanting to go back and like have a second chance at it, I guess, like I would make sacrifices to make something like this happen again for me. A lot of people have been asking me, oh, I want to visit Korea and go to a fan sign while I'm visiting Korea. And that's great. Like, I think that if that's something you really, really want to do, then yeah, of course you should look into it. I will say, like, be prepared. It's gonna be a little difficult, and you will have to play your cards really right, especially because they don't tend to announce fan signs like until right before they happen. So you will need to be on your toes as far as when you can come here. It's always safe to kind of plan if you know a group is going to do a comeback. Of course they're going to have fan signs during their comeback, so you know, you could always kind of just plan for that general window. Keep an eye on their fan cafe and see when they announce fan signs and everything like that. Another thing you would definitely need to consider is how are you going to get home all of the albums that you bought. The music store can and will ship them for you, but it does cost a pretty penny. If you choose not to have them ship it for you, then that means you have to transport those home yourself, and that could cost a lot of money as well, as far as like baggage fees on your airline go. Again, I'm not trying to dissuade you from trying it. I think that if it's something you really want to do, it is such a good experience. You will definitely remember it forever and hopefully think it is worth it. But just be prepared. I would hate for someone to come all the way to Korea and only plan their vacation around this one thing and then find out they didn't get it. Have a backup plan, you know? It would be such a shame that you came all the way here And just because you didn't go to a fan sign, you let a perfectly good day go to waste in Korea. Another thing people have been asking me a lot about is, weren't you nervous about speaking Korean to them? Like, did they all speak English? Like, what happened? So I know enough Korean to get around in my everyday life, basically. I too was a little nervous going in about speaking Korean to all of them. But the truth is like, you don't really have time to have a full-fledged conversation with any of them. Shonu speaks pretty good English, as well as obviously I and Juhan. Kihan understands English pretty well, but he doesn't have a lot of confidence speaking, I don't think, which is sad because I'm sure he's phenomenal at it if he would just try. Minhyuk is pretty good at speaking English as well. Kyungwon, he spoke English to me. If I didn't hear what he said or if I needed him to repeat something, he would repeat it in English for me. And Wano, like, kind of didn't try at all, but that was okay. In the end, I would say you should not be worried about any of the boys not being able to communicate with you in English. The thing you should be concerned about is communicating with the fan sign staff and with the music store staff. Those are the two most Korean speaking experiences you're gonna have during the whole encounter. So I would brush up on even the simplest Korean. They're gonna ask you to sit down a lot. They're gonna call numbers up for who's next. Just stuff like that, like really basic things. Have the really simple language skills on your side. And if not, I mean, honestly, they're gonna look at you and they're gonna like, oh, well, she's a foreigner, she doesn't understand, whatever. If there does come a time where you're a little worried because you don't know what any of the staff is saying to you or whatever, just look around and observe what everybody else is doing, and you know, you should be able to figure it out that way. So I think that's it. I think I kind of touched on everything that I wanted to touch on, kind of answered a lot of the questions that people had asked me. If there was something that I happened to miss out on or something that you have a question in particular about, please feel free to ask me. You can contact me on here, of course, or through my Twitter, which I will link below. Also, if you guys would like to know what it's like to live in Korea and to be a teacher here, or just what it's like to be a K-pop fan as a foreigner, just anything like that, please just let me know. I love talking about things like this and hearing from you guys. So thank you for watching. Bye!